here. In the All right, y'all. Hopefully you can see my screen. It should say microdosing self-care. Perfect. I'm glad. And with that, and feel free to continue to use. In fact, I'm going to pop out the chat so I can see you all. And Rachel's going to keep getting people in here so that they can join us. But I'm going to be here for you. We're going to take it and probably a microdose of your hour tonight and just share a little bit about microdosing self-care. I'm Elizabeth Miller. I'm a certified caregiving consultant, and I'm the founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver. And I am a huge fan and an ambassador for No Barriers. I was introduced to No Barriers I went on my first No Barriers retreat in summer of 2020. And then I became an alumni of the No Barriers retreat programs. I became an ambassador, which means that I like to amplify what they're doing so that other family caregivers can find out about No Barriers. And I also am a volunteer program leader. And what that means is that we take groups of people that have applied and been accepted, and we wish we could take everybody, but we take them on these wonderful healing retreats. And one of the things that we do in these retreats is we go through a process and we end the retreats with a self-care pledge. And I just love to witness the transformation of a group of people coming in to this No Barriers Caregivers retreats, where it's all about respite for the family caregiver. We already know that you do an amazing job of taking care of everybody else. And I love to see the friendships that form and the rope teams that come out of that. And I really believe in their motto, which is what's within you is stronger than what's in your way. And they've got the elements that accentuate that mantra with rope team and vision and pioneer and elevate and alchemy. And all of those things are something that we do every day as caregivers to just show up and take care of ourselves and take care of the people that we love. I've also participated in different events like this one, and there is a summit coming up in August that is available virtually that you can get more information on. And there's a caregivers group for No Barriers, the No Barriers caregivers group that you might want to tap into so that you can learn more about the different programs that they have available. Just a brief little bit for those of you who don't know me, is I have felt like all of you. I am a family caregiver, secondary caregiver at this point. Sandwich generation caregiver is where I spent some of my most brutal and tough years with both of my parents with chronic health issues while working full-time and raising our kids. And our kids now we're practically empty nesters. We had one graduate, and she just took her NCLEX today to be a registered nurse. We hope that she passes that, moved off to Chicago, and we've got a son that's starting his third year at UGA. I've been married 26 years and I've worked full-time while I was caregiving, and I have lots of hobbies, and I'm a person just like all of you are people. I love to write, I love to read, I love to go to the movies, and I love to travel and take new adventures. And the caregiving seasons were tough for me. So everybody kind of has a different story. Some people, it happens in an instant with a crisis, emergency. For me, it was a mudslide of things that happened. And again, caring for chronic parents with different disabilities and needing lots of different help. I affectionately call them a cocktail of different things. And then I have a brother who's neurodivergent that I help support my sister now along with the rest of my siblings now that our parents are deceased. That's my current caregiving situation, which now that I'm not in an active primary caregiving role, I have more time to serve the family caregiver community. And that's what I really enjoy doing, is helping to fast track people to the resources that I believe are going to help them. So my question for you all is, and feel free, I'd love it if you'd use the chat, because it's so, these virtual things are fun, but they're also feel like you're talking to yourself. I love to see the interaction in the chat happen where, do you feel like right now you have time for self-care? That's my question for you. And I'm glad to see that many of you are with the introduction that we did, prioritizing time for yourself and your health and happiness is so important. It's not all about bubble baths and the things that the media puts out there, date nights and weekends away and massages. We love those things. Those are wonderful. But self-care is really so much more. And the way that I define self-care, but I'd love to hear how you define self-care, is anything that makes me feel energized or provides peace of mind. So energy and peace of mind. And I'm going back and looking at some of the answers of the do you have time for self-care? It says, I have not I have time, but not the motivation. That's very honest. I love that. Took a couple months off from doctor's appointments. Sometimes we can do that in the short term for a sprint, but like if we want to make caregiving sustainable, we got to figure that out. And this is self-care. Just coming to this hour, I totally get that, Victoria. This is your self-care time, is to make that time for yourself. And learn to make a little time. For me, perfect. Unplanned sometimes is great. Making time, that's, you guys are speaking my language. Time-ish, I love that. I know I do, but it seems to get pushed low on the priority list. Yes. So we're going to give you some ideas and some ways to kind of shift a mindset potentially and microdose your self-care versus waiting for these, things to happen. Self-care is the antidote to caregiver burnout. And in order for us to keep that at bay, this is the antidote for how that happens, is making these little deposits in ourselves, in our health, and our happiness. I think it looks different for caregivers, and it looks different for everyone, in fact, which is why, I recommend you try something on, and I'm going to lay out a bunch of strategies for you today and see how it feels, and keep what feels good and ditch the stuff that doesn't. What it does take, and I love that people say they're making the time, is that it takes intention. You will never find the time for self-care. It just doesn't magically appear. You have to be intentional. You have to create it. And I applaud you guys for just even carving out this time to talk about it. So here's a little pet peeve and I think this kind of relates to the No Barriers retreats in that we do, is when I was on a retreat recently, we got talking about core wounds and the things that can help us with our own self-compassion. Like, we give a lot of compassion to other people, but do we give that same kind of compassion to ourselves? Do we talk to ourselves like we do our own, best friend, the kind of advice that we give to our best friend? And they have these charts, in the doctor's office with the little faces, but this is one that says, how are you feeling today? And fine is not a feeling. That's my pet peeve, is, oh, fine. And I get on my kids if they say, I'm fine. No, there's so many different words you can pick from. Tired is fine, overwhelmed, anxious. So if you don't mind, I'd love for you to share how you're feeling today in the chat. One of the things I realized in the last retreat is, when we talked about these core wounds, is that I identified with one called repression, because I had some numbers in my health, data that was coming up, particularly with my cholesterol, that were off. And one of the symptoms of it is disease, and the antidote was honesty. So this is something I've been working on too, is really identifying, what is my feeling for the day? I see people are saying frustrated, exhausted, lonely. Yes, you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. That is normal. And so I think I've been more intentional from my self-care pledge at the last retreat to try to tap in and to be honest with myself of how I am feeling. Scared and afraid for the future, super honest, numb. Yes, you all are vulnerable and honest. I love it. But getting in a habit of checking in and signing out and assigning the true feeling and then just deciding whether you need to sit with it for a minute, sit with this feeling, and then maybe also figure out, what's going to help that feeling, what's going to diffuse the feeling. I love Heather Zocali's tip. She's the founder of the No Barriers Caregivers program. And she says that she gives herself and her family members like 3 days to kind of sit with, whatever they're feeling. If it's just kind of something that it's a really tough moment, a brutal moment. But then after 3 days, it's like, that's their boundary. They got to move on, and they have to kind of start working on things that are going to help improve their mental health. So if you find you're like in this cycle of feeling the same feeling, then it might be time to take some action to figure out what's going to be the antidote to help get that moving in a different direction. Stressed, yes, working on that advice, it works for sure. 3 days and then out. Yes, Heather is great about that. I love the advice. So core beliefs, caregiving is stressful. It's many of the things that we talked about, and there is also joy in these moments too. It's not an either or, it's a yes and. I believe, that we all can be amazing family caregivers and be happy and healthy individuals. I also believe that I can be a terrific employee and I can also care for my loved one. But nothing, there's usually not two things can be true at the same time. It's not an either or, but a yes and. And that I do also believe a core belief is everyone must create time for their health and happiness. Nothing will get better if I don't prioritize my self-care. I'm just in this constant spin cycle. And, this idea for this presentation and this topic today came to me because I was being interviewed for a podcast by another caregiver who said on the recording, while we were recording live, I don't have time for self-care. And I thought, oh, that's my whole thing, is I teach people how to make time and create time for self-care. And when he said when his wife was sick, and I wanted to validate the feelings, but since this is a core belief of mine, I couldn't let it rest, particularly on a recording that was going to be living out there on the Ethernet forever. And so I just started kind of asking questions about it, and I kind of, respectfully challenging best I could. But, did he have time alone in the car ever? Was he driving to something solo? Did he find himself waiting for his loved one in a waiting room situation? Were there times where they were asleep and he was not? And I got him, and I could see the kind of gears working, and maybe he had the definition like the media definition of the respite, the vacation, the time away. But again, caregiving and self-care is different, and we can infuse these micro doses. I want to encourage you all, as I did to this man, to ditch the all or nothing mentality. That it's a limiting mentality when we think that it has to look and feel potentially a certain way. And here at No Barriers, we are about breaking barriers. And so this is one, what is within us is stronger than what's in our way. And in order for to love, others and show up, we've got to love ourselves first and find that self-compassion. And when we do, everything else falls into place, not perfectly, but better. So I have a confession. I don't like bubble baths. I don't find them relaxing. The pages of my book get wet. My dogs are always bugging me. I always feel like, should I wash my hair? It's kind of wet now. And like, should I what? So I just don't like the bubble baths. And so that is one of the quintessential images of self-care is a bubble bath. But self-care does not look the same for everyone. It also doesn't have to be some big event. And it's these micro decisions and the small little activities that we can layer and stack. They can have a really substantial impact on our overall mental health and physical health. So what do you all consider microdose? That was I had this topic of a microdose, and I thought, okay, I'm not talking about psychedelic drugs today in this presentation. We're talking about improving our health by using microdoses of time. So not a microdose of any kind of medication, but a microdose of time. So what do y'all think is a microdose? If you want to throw something in the chat about how much time do you think, to microdose self-care? 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. I like it. Yes. So I kind of went along the same vein as you all. Is it Araminta, Gail, Sherry, Lynette? So for this presentation, I went with under 16 minutes. I just felt like 20 sounded like too much. 15 is doable. And so I went with 16. So I'm going to share 16 ideas of what you could do to microdose self-care in under 16 minutes. So 16 ideas in 16 minutes. Try them on, see what benefit if they work for you. Some of them won't take 16 minutes, but they're all going to be 16 minutes or under. So I talk a lot in the different things that I serve up as far as resources and content and podcast and so forth. There's 8 types of self-care. You know, when I was first caregiving, what really was very apparent to me was this physical self-care, you know, the eating right, the sleeping, the exercise, all good stuff. But there are so many different types of self-care. And so I'm gonna introduce these 8 types to you, and then I'm gonna show you how the microdose can kind of even hit a couple of these different ones. So other kinds of self-care besides physical, emotional self-care. Emotional self-care could be anything that's helping you cope with your emotions. You know, I wrote this journal for that reason. It's like I wanted people to have an easy way that they could intentionally put a focus on self-care in their life. And so there's a prompt in here. Journaling is a great emotional laughing, practicing gratitude. Those are all types of emotions that you can, you know, have an outlet for. Spiritual could be, you know, the godly type of spiritual, religious type of spiritual, but it can also be nature, quiet time, yoga and meditation, to just kind of be present and get inside yourself. Financial, with budgeting, investing, saving money, you know, getting your finances in order. Professional, about having that, you know, balance so that you're not just all invested in your work, but also taking all your time off. Like that is a professional. There's no awards for not taking your time off as in your career. And then even meal planning could be a way that just kind of makes your day flow better. Intellectual, learning different things, advocating, understanding different topics that are new to you. Social is you're doing it right now, is just connecting with other caregivers, knowing that you're not alone for support. Maybe it's a therapy, friend time, things like that. And then practical. Sometimes it's just getting your paperwork in order, using the technology that you have available, and assigning other people roles and responsibilities to help you. So all of that is self-care, because again, it will help you either feel more energized or it will give more peace of mind. And those are kind of my 2, you know, filters of things that I like to put things through. Is this going to serve me, and is this going to serve you, is the question to ask. So with that, let's get into it. The 16 ideas I have for you to microdose self-care tonight. First one, soak up the healing powers of nature. And we display this very well on the different No Barriers retreats. We purposefully take people out of their crazy, you know, world and put them in a place where they can just be present and soak up that healing power of nature. And as we're going through these, I invite you to just think or scratch down on a Post-it pad some of the ones that you want to try. You know, some way that you can do this is to notice something when you're out taking a short walk, or just even commit to taking a short walk. 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You know, I love to kind of play these games with myself where I look for like hearts in nature. Like there's a tree near me that has like this heart. It's not a hole anymore, but it's just like where the trunk is a little bit more depressed than the rest of the tree. Or I've found like little leaves that are in the shape of hearts. Just feels like there's a lot of hearts in nature that I think are fun. Having even lunch in a different location, like out on the porch, you know, sitting in a rocking chair, just observing the glory of what is around us. And so there are different types of the 8 self-care categories that we can touch on here are spiritual and physical, depending if you put some kind of a walk into it or not. But definitely a spiritual power when you're soaking up nature. So that's the first one to try. Second, connecting with a fellow caregiver. You know, we do display these on the caregiver retreats. We love to, you know, connect with people and not just keep these connections here on the retreats, but when we go back and maintaining that rope team. But how do you keep that connection with a fellow caregiver, and how do you, you know, stoke it and put a little fuel to it? So texting is a great way to do that. It's, you know, very accessible, but there's another thing, an app that's available on your phone called Marco Polo, where you can do little video chats. And that's something that I have done, with my sisters. And it's great because particularly for caregivers, because we constantly feel like if we call somebody or we text them, we're immediately interrupting them. But Marco Polo, they can access when they have the time and the availability to do so, and they can record a video chat. So that might be something to check out as Marco Polo. Phone calls, set a timer. You can say, I only have 15 minutes or 20 minutes to talk, but I just really wanted to connect with somebody. And it'd be like a little game almost that you're like, time's up, gotta go. And that makes sure that you get to all the critical things that you wanted to talk about. I have something called a Happy Healthy Caregiver Virtual Cafe coming up. It's an hour, which is not really the microdose, but leave early if you need to. But in that one coming up at the end of the month, we're going to be talking about positive ways to process grief and how that can be so healing. And so I try to give different strategies. We play games for prizes, because who doesn't love to win prizes? So I try to put those kinds of events out there, and you can get more information on that on my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com, and you'll get the invite link there. And then your rope team. Rope team is just, connecting with the other people that are in a like situation. Sometimes I feel like people may wait too long to connect with their people that are in their situation. But here's the thing that I challenge you with. It's not necessarily about you needing the support, but also about you giving the support. It's a give and take relationship. And so somebody needs you just as much as you need them. And maybe they just have been just haven't reached out. So these types of things, this one will hit on the self-care category of social and also emotional, because you'll have some wonderful conversations and things to talk about there. Journaling, there are so many types of journaling, and I mentioned the prompted journal that I have here that with, if you could change one thing about your present life, it would be ... to just kind of think about what you want to be true in your life, or what brings you joy and things like that. But there's so many different types of journaling. There's art journaling. So it's so fun to kind of doodle, maybe think of a mantra, maybe think of a scripture verse, get yourself, a nice cute little notebook and a nice fun group of pens, and you can art journal your mantra, your scripture verse, whatever it is, sketch something that you see in nature. Maybe it's just a power word for you. Bullet journaling is great. A one-word journal, what's your word of the day? How are you feeling? Journal about that. You can do a photo journal, or just free-form journaling, and set a timer. I think sometimes, again, it's this all or nothing mentality. We feel like our journals have to look a certain way, but the healing happens really by just doing it, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. So it touches on spiritual self-care and emotional self-care. Planning respite. So Rachel, hope it's okay. I didn't ask your permission to put you in my presentation, but you're in, because the idea is this, like the idea of planning the respite is almost just as fun as being on the respite. And the planning doesn't necessarily have to take a bunch of time. You can microdose the planning. It's no longer this nebulous wish of, oh, I wish this was happening, but it's starting to put things in motion. It's about plugging in who will be, filling in for you when you need to take time away, and scratching out what that plan looks like. So, and then grabbing your calendar and sending out that message with your friend group to say, I need to get away. Let's get the conversation moving about planning this. I need to take a break from my caregiving life, or just, hey, I need a break. Can someone come over next Wednesday or Thursday night? Or maybe it's a regular thing that you'd want to keep going. But scheduling your time is so important, just like you would any kind of a wellness appointment for the person that you love. You also deserve that. So good. I'm glad you love the person. I love that some people said they love Marco Polo. Good. Thank you so much for interacting here, y'all. Keep it coming. But if you're a working caregiver, use your vacation time. Just make that promise to yourself. You're going to use it all up. And keep those promises to yourself. They're so important. Put the appointments in your calendar, schedule the time, for me, when I was in the throes of caregiving and working and everything, it literally was time on my calendar in the morning, twice a week, where I went and just went to Starbucks and had a little bit of writing time so that I could sit there and sip on a cup of coffee before the day, seize the day before the day seized me. And that, just having that plan, and my family knew about it. They would say, how is your happy, healthy time? I think is what I called it on the calendar. But making the time, creating it, you won't find it. And I'm just curious if any of you schedule your self-care now. Does anybody do that? Another thing that you can do to kind of plan respite is to fill out your home care, home health paperwork. I think, again, that might be another thing that people tend to put off. Well, I don't need that. We can handle it, myself, my family members. But sometimes things happen. And, just putting the paperwork out there, because you usually have to get an assessment where somebody has to come and see what kind of care this person that you love needs. And so fill out the paperwork and just initiate that. That could be how you're going to microdose your future respite self-care. And send a request out to your care team that these are the days you're looking for help. And maybe there's a calendar that you have set up for that, because respite is important for everyone. Used to, then caregiving took over. Yes. And that's when we need it the most, right? It's like, that's when we need it the most. And that using my paid time off for doctor's appointments and kids' schedules. I get that too. That sometimes you do have to use that personal time for that. I think that's why, so many of us are pushing for more family leave at different companies. So the types of categories that this can hit in for self-care is physical, is, having the respite, social, emotional, and professional. So those are kind of all the things that you can benefit from microdosing and planning your respite. Dancing or singing it out. These are powerful. We talked about music a little bit when people were sharing. Somebody said they were listening to Jethro Tull. I have this thing that, it's an arm's reach, I can't quite read, but a karaoke mic with a Bluetooth that I can hook up to my phone. I can have my own private karaoke session. I have a playlist. In fact, I'll share it with you. It's not letting me cut and paste this. But I will put it in the No Barriers group, the Facebook group after, so that you all can access the Caregiver Anthem playlist that I have. I'll make myself a note to do that. Because music is so powerful. It is a mood shifter. And, just to listen to a song or two, whether you sing it out, dance it out, all of those are going to touch on, spiritual, physical, emotional. It can be a, trifecta of different things on those self-care categories. Listening to oldies, Priya says, 60s, 70s, depending on my mood. 80s hair bands are my go-to. Yes, for me, when my mom, going back to the music, for mom, it was, she could be in a really foul mood when we were going to an appointment, and I could crank up some 50s music. A dance party with the grandkids. Yeah, dance like nobody's watching. It's all good. Learn a TikTok dance, whatever it is that you need to just kind of put a little fun in your day. All right, these two are my dog is much bigger now, Sunny, but this picture is just too cute. Sunny in shadow, but I am guilty of being a productivity ninja. And I literally have to self-talk myself to make myself just stop and breathe and be conscious of the fact that I cannot keep moving and moving. We're like cars, right? Like, you don't expect your car to just run forever and never need some time or the oil to get changed. The tires need to be rotated. The car will overheat if it just keeps going forever and ever. And the same is true for us, that we deserve that same kind of maintenance and that same kind of rest time. And dogs are so good at this. Like, look at these two. Like, they get to just hang out. Dogs are so good. And so sometimes too, part of doing nothing for me is just playing with them, tossing them a toy, daydreaming, literally just letting my mind rest, is so important. And I think that we probably all need to be better at this, because it's like the list just keeps growing, right? It's hard to stop, when we know it's just going to keep getting larger, but we are going to be better if we prune it like we do a bush. It's going to grow back even stronger. And the same thing is true with us, that if we give ourselves that break and that time to refuel, and treat ourselves just like we do our car, our cell phones, all those precious things that we do for them, to do the same thing for us. Stephanie says she joined an adult dance group last year, Red Hot Mama, and in the midst of a huge caregiving crisis, so it had time for me. Yeah, so important. I'm proud of you. Applaud that. That's amazing. So part of doing nothing, this could be spiritual, taking a breath, thinking about things that you're grateful for, physical, literally doing nothing and giving your body that physical rest, and then emotional rest as well. All right, 10 more to go. Number 7, purge a space. So when I was in the throes of caregiving, I would say that I wanted less to take care of. That was just kind of one of those things. It's like, I need less. I just want to take care of less. And I kept trying to simplify my life. And I even had done something called a Project 333, where in 33 days, 3 months, 33 items was what it is. And you literally pared down your wardrobe so you had less choices to make. And I just love a challenge like that. So I had whittled down, and that's probably why I had all these hangers. But purging is a way that you can feel like you do have control. Like, so much of caregiving is out of our control. We want to control it, but we just can't. And it feels good. I know after my mom passed away, that was like one of the things I did for grief and healing, is just, it didn't even have her stuff here in my home I had to go through, but I went home and I just purged my pantry, purged my closet, like took a little space and just said, I'm going to attack this today. And like, look what I did. Look how cute this is laid out here. You don't have to spend a ton of money on all of that, but that can be really just therapeutic to purge a space. There's another fun trick that you can try that I call the hanger trick, where these all hangers are the right kind of way on the bar. But when you're looking at your wardrobe, if you take them all and you turn the hanger the opposite way and hang it on so it's backwards on your rod, and then at the end of a season, toss what you didn't wear. So at the end of the summer season, if you didn't wear it, you're likely never going to wear it again. It doesn't make you feel special. It just doesn't fit right anymore, whatever it is, donate to someone who needs it. So that's a very satisfying thing to do that takes minutes. Whether you have a physical drawer or a digital, you could do your photos. One of the things I try to do on my phone is at the end of a month, I look back and get rid of all the stupid things I took a picture of that are hogging up the space on my phone. And it's also a way to me to just kind of cherish those memories that we made in the month, and like, wow, like just to be present with that for a moment. It's financial because you're saving money, or maybe you're selling back the stuff that you purge. There's places that will buy back your books, that will buy your used clothes, your purses, whatever. And then it can be emotional, just healing to deal with the photos or the generational clutter that happens. And then in practical, because it's just less to take care of. We have less things to dust, less things to put away, all of that. So purging a space. This one is, that's me a while back, but playing with the filters on phones is fun. And so just finding little ways to just seek the laughter. So much of our day is heavy stuff. But there's little things, whether you're with your kids or your teenagers, or just for yourself, for kicks and grins, and send it off to a friend and be like, look at how ridiculous this is. I think this is now my contact photo in my daughter's phone. But just laughing at yourself, and laughter is contagious. And look at it like a treasure hunt, where you're trying to find these things. Yes, TikTok filters make them giggle. The dances are funny. Do them yourself. You don't ever have to record them and do them from other people. Just seek the laughter, just like you're scheduling your self-care. Be intentional about finding the things that make you laugh. Could be YouTube videos, anything. If anybody else has ideas of ways that they find laughter, throw those in the things. But little things that you can microdose that. Some of the old sitcoms, like the Seinfelds and stuff, when you take out the commercials, those are super quick, and this can be a great way. Animal videos get you every time. Yes, those are fun. And this will be good for emotional and social. Comedy station while driving. Yes, XM radio has some great ones. These are seizing those opportunities when you're in the car. It's a precious time to say, how could I infuse some self-care right now? Number 9 is brain game. So I don't know. I'm addicted to Wordle. I don't know if this was the one of the day that I put the slide together. And I think it was No Barriers folks that taught me how to play it. But logic problems, word search, Wordle, words with friends, those can be all ways to connect with people, maybe, and play games with each other, or just to challenge yourself and have some brain games yourself. But that's those are great. And these types of things are intellectual self-care, so learning and using your brain and doing that. And it could be social self-care, like something with like words with friends. So what do you all do for intellectual and fun things to just kind of stay sharp? Someone says, I love the Peak app for brain games. I'll have to check that out. Candy Crush, that's an oldie but goodie. For a while, I was into Plants vs. Zombies. And so if you think like, oh, I'm wasting my time, yeah, but you're also microdosing some self-care. Like I feel like with Wordle, I'm using my brain. I'm really, keeping myself sharp. And I think that way it feels like, for those of us that are productivity ninjas and feel like we have to always be doing things, reading books and Wordle. Yes, AARP has free games online. Perfect. There's also mini crossword puzzle. So Wordle, and then like the New York Times has a mini crossword puzzle. Let's see. Love this. Yes, love the games. I played with Rachel. I love that. Reading and puzzles. What else did I miss on here? Books and Wordle. Sudoku. It reminds me of my dad. He taught me how to play Sudoku. But that's a good one. And if you can't microdose and get it all done, you put it down, you pick it up. If you're doing a paper one. Word with Friends, nerds, I don't know, and cryptograms. I'm gonna have to save this chat and see some of these up. Jeopardy is a fun family time thing to do together. I don't know what luminosity is, but that sounds very illuminating. I like it. So these are all great ideas, y'all. And you definitely got the intellectual self-care ideas. Old dominoes, puzzles, physical stuff. My mom loved those logic problems. Those were fun. So these would be great to do together. Number 10. No, this doesn't sound super sexy, but meal planning is, particularly as a working caregiver. The weeks where I didn't put some kind of a meal plan, and I'm not talking a real sophisticated meal plan. I'm talking about scratching out on a piece of paper the days of the weeks, what days we'd like to probably go out because we're going to be busy or getting home late or whatever, what days we're going to do a rotisserie chicken, what day we're going to make taco night, and just writing it out, because having that plan and just having a place to park that, one of the most dreaded questions for me is, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? It's like, I don't know. Figured it out. Why do people have to eat all the time? But so just thinking about the meal plan and just keeping it simple and getting your your 10 things that are just your go-to, and having some kind of a simple system to that. And so you can write out a meal plan for the week in a micro minutes. It doesn't take longer than you think. It's like we put more time and energy into thinking about it than it actually does doing it. Julie says she has a whiteboard in the kitchen every week, so she knows what to make every night, and the family quits asking what's for dinner. Okay, I can tell Julie you don't like that question either. And then Molly says, back for the puzzles, completing the puzzle subscription is the best thing. Get a puzzle, they send you a mailer to send it back to get a new one. I'm assuming you're talking about jigsaw puzzles, and I wish you lived near me, Molly, because nobody likes to put a puzzle together as much as I do. But that's a great way to microdose self-care. You can keep a puzzle out on the dining room table that you only eat at twice a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas likely, and keep it out. And then in your microdose, you can kind of go in and have some microdose there. What's for dinner? Yes, I know. It's the never-ending question. So anyway, meal planning. I put one of my favorite smoothie recipes here. That's one of my go-tos for breakfast or even like an afternoon snack. So financial, because you're going to save yourself money if you get this meal planning down, and physical and practical. So again, these are just ideas. I'm not saying you have to meal plan. I'm just sharing some ideas of what could potentially help. I see someone, I fix everyone's meals and I'll eat cheese and crackers in between. I used to fix and freeze meals. Yes, that was great. I found that I'm a bad person to defrost, but if you can be a good one to take things out of the freezer, that is so amazing. Menus on the fridge for the week. Also know what to take out of the freezer the day before. Yes, you guys are better at the freezer than me. It's good to know yourself though, right? All right, number 11 is to read and listen. So reading, we can read books. I mean, think about if you read 10 minutes a day, you could get through the book, 15 minutes. Those are all doable. And then discovering audiobooks was a big thing for me during caregiving, and repurposing that time I had in the car to listen to audiobooks, to listen to podcasts. That was a way that I learned how to start my own business, is by listening to podcasts of people. And it was exciting for me to kind of generate something that lit my fire again for me, that was just mine, and that time, and using my brain to kind of strategize what that could look like. And whether doing a podcast, you can search just like you would in any browser. You can search for a topic of something that you want to learn more about, or something that you used to really enjoy learning about. Libby is an app that you just need a library card and you can download free audiobooks. You don't need to have an expensive subscription, anything. You may have to wait for the most popular books, but you can also put them on a waiting list. And when it comes to reading and listening, sometimes I even just like the idea of microdosing what I want to read. And so I know that like with my cousin Megan and some of my close friends and other caregiving friends I follow on Goodreads, and I can see what they're reading. They can see what I'm reading. I kind of am doing some online, not shopping, but putting things into my to be read pile. And I enjoy that. Maybe you don't have the time to actually, or you just don't have the energy to read, but you want to just think about books, or you want to put them in those home edit rainbow color order. That's very therapeutic. Put your to be read pile in there. So these are ways that you can microdose self-care. And this little free library, by the way, we did this in memory of my mama, who was an author and a reader. And she would like this to know that she did know about it, that we're doing this for her. But spiritual, intellectual, and professional. So reading and listening can hit on all of those types of categories of self-care. All right, what did people say here? So male meal kits are worth it, and they are fun to try. Yes, like maybe you spend some minutes just, a lot of them have coupons, or if your friend has it, they have a referral code. I've done HelloFresh, I think, and Blue Apron, and it's a local one. Is great. Meal kits do make things easy. Look for discount coupons. Yes, save the recipes, make them again. Yeah, make the ones that you like. Have your library card attached to Libby. That's great. Audiobooks. They also have regular books too, not just audiobooks. And then swapping books with family and friends. Yeah, just putting them aside and taking a picture of them, sending them to someone. Again, books they can escape you from the day-to-day woes of caregiving potentially. All right, number 12, make an appointment. So this one, again, not so glorious, but important. And it's important to make appointments, not for ourselves, is what I'm talking about here, is making an appointment. For me, I need to make a colonoscopy appointment. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm waiting till I'm like home for multiple weeks in a row so that I can be sure that I can to show up for my appointment. But whether it's your dentist appointment, you're getting your nails, appointment for your nails, your hair, all your wellness visits, those, it takes no time to just call and make the appointment, and just know that, and pat yourself on the back and say, I did something for myself today. So good for you. Garage sales can be great places for books. Yes. Also Goodwill is wonderful. for that. Lots of libraries have book sales a couple times a year. Yes, I love book people. You guys are my people. Um, and all of these, making an appointment can hit on, it could be your financial planner, your elder law care attorney, physical stuff that you have, a social appointment to just get together with a friend that you haven't seen in a while. And then that will have some emotion, help relieve that emotional pressure valve. So make an appointment. 13. So we had yoga for caregivers, I think a couple weeks ago, came on as a No Barriers partner and did as part of our wellness series. And they offer some wonderful options every week that they put a schedule out, yoga for caregivers, about the different ways that you can connect with them. And they don't just do yoga, but in meditation, but they do tapping and some other things. And there are lots of free options to do that. And you can find short little classes. I know for me, meditation in 10 minutes with the app Calm has been very, very healing for me, and a way to kind of, when I'm swirling and feeling anxious, I have general anxiety myself. So it's a way for me to just kind of ground again and take that time to breathe and just check in with myself. Even my watch, and if you all have Apple Watches, they have these breathing exercises and relax exercises on them. So that takes a microdose of time there to just get that. So yeah, plug for Yoga for Caregivers. They're amazing. Yoga for Caregivers is amazing. You are smart. All Moves is another good app for exercise, yoga, and breathing. I'm not familiar with that one, but that sounds like a good one. And if you think, oh, meditation's not for me, try some different ones. I think for me, I kept thinking again, like it needed to be all or nothing, and it needed to be perfect and look a certain way. And when I finally accepted that for me, meditation is what it is, it was just giving myself the space to practice. And it is a practice. And so is yoga. And that we're being present and taking those breaths. And it's not the idea that we're not thinking about other stuff coming in, because it's going to come in. It's just recognizing it, naming it, and getting back to the breathing and the healing. And what I have found, and it took me a little bit to stick to it, but what I have found with meditation in particular is like things just kind of tend to roll off me a little bit easier. I can tell when I'm not, up to my program. Same with, I've got to exercise regularly, yoga, meditation. I've got to keep doing these things because everything just rolls off a little bit easier. I don't know if you all find that too. But these are financial because a lot of them you don't have to pay for. There's so many different free options out there. Spiritual, physical, emotional. This one hits a lot of different categories. All right, shopping, window shopping. And I know it can be hard to kind of get out as a caregiver and have that time to just browse and look at the whole rack at Marshall's or whatever it is that you used to enjoy doing. But Amazon, and how fitting, today's Amazon Prime Day. But it's like window shopping, but you can create your own Amazon wish list. So if you can have one for yourself. You can have one for the person that you care for, so that when people are asking you for ideas of things that they could do to help you in your caregiving situation, you can point them towards your Amazon wish list, and you could say, here are some things that would really help me. Here are some things that would really help the person that you're caring for. Perhaps it's a new game that you could do together, an accessibility item, something to brighten up your space of your home, or just because they want to send you something to brighten up your day. And who doesn't love to get some snail mail? So it's a fun way to shop without having to leave your house. And you can do this, continually perfect your Amazon wish list. Okay, I'm going back here because we've got some other things I saw. Love the DriveThru app, which gives you a moment to check and breathe, and then gives you a quick thought or note to write. Yeah, Prime Day. Yeah, you don't have to actually spend the money, but you could put them in your wish list. Give myself $10 for the thrift store. Perfect. And director for Zen Center years ago for my lack of motivation. Now, don't chastise yourself. More grace, less guilt, Catherine. You're doing the best you can. I have one for everyone in my family to help me remember what for kids and nieces and nephews want for Christmas. Yeah, it does make it so much easier. at those times of year when you don't even have to think about it. You can just kind of go to the wish list, and then you can direct other people towards yours, to get you something that you really want. So that's a fun one. I hope you guys enjoy that one. This is financial, emotional, and practical. All right, this one's a drive-through beverage. I had follow people on social media who swear that there is nothing like a McDonald's Coke. And so I recently went and I was like, I got to see what this McDonald's Coke is all about. Like, what are people raving so much about it? I can tell you, it was pretty good. I think it's the right mix of carbonation and all of that. But are any of you addicted to the McDonald's Coke? What I want to know is, how do you go through McDonald's drive-through and just get the Coke and not get the fries? Like, sometimes the fries maybe are self-care too, and you're craving that salty stuff. But whether you're going through a drive-through for a McDonald's Coke, a Chick-fil-A milkshake, a Starbucks drive-through, which then of course I always take Sunny with me because she loves to get the pop cup. But what that will do is that it will get you kind of out of your thing. It's a quick little errand that you can do. It's usually just down to the corner, picking up something, but it kind of removes you from that situation and kind of brings you back into that good space where maybe you just need a break for a few minutes and something hot to savor. So Starbucks Sonic mixes. I haven't had that. That sounds good. Soft serve ice cream. Yes, these are fun little errands to kind of give you a microdose of that self-care. And these could be social, if you get out, see other people, get out of your world a little bit, and then emotional too, to just kind of diffuse the mood that's happening. All right, you guys ready for the last one, the last microdose? How am I doing on time here? Ooh, I'm right on time. Okay, so the last one I have for you today is to make a decision. And this is something that I call like a quick self-care check. And what it'll do is it'll help decrease the mental traffic that's bopping around, ping-ponging around in your head. But making this decision, and I have this on here as like, hell yeah, because for me, one of the filters when people ask me to do something or to take on something or whatever is I kind of, ask myself this question: is it a hell yeah? If it's not a hell yeah, then it's probably a no. And this is a form of boundary setting where they can just takes up a lot of space in your head until you make the decision. It can be something small, like an upcoming event, and whether you want to go to attend this event this weekend or do something. But it also could be huge, like, do you want to keep working where you're working, or do you want to keep living where you're living? But making the decision. And my dad was always good at teaching practical strategies on how to do this. So giving yourself more white space in your life when you say no to things, and it is completely your right to do that. And then how to make the decision can sometimes, we can get all into that, but to sit down and use your micro time for listing out a list of pros and cons. That was always my dad's thing. He'd say, you don't know how to make a decision, go make a list of pros and cons. And just like seeing it all written out is very therapeutic. Or maybe like you've got all these things swirling around in your head, and maybe it's not so much making a decision, but making some kind of a plan. And so I don't know if you're familiar with mind mapping, but kind of, let's say you're preparing for a presentation, or you've got some kind of an upcoming event this weekend, and you're thinking about all the things that go along with that. You make a little circle of what the thing is, and then you just start making lines out in other circles of all the things that have to go into doing that, and just mapping it out. They call it a mind map. Can be very therapeutic on that, and it can help you decide and just, again, decrease that mental traffic, get you the help that you need. And this one's unique in that it touches all the self-care categories, frankly, because it, depending on the type of decision that you're making, can touch on all of these different things. So, like to just treat myself. What a concept. I know. Ask for gift cards to Starbucks every year for my birthday. Gift cards are great because, especially, a lot of us as caregivers are financially in a tight spot. So this gives us these self-care moments. So which of these ideas are you going to try? That's what I want to know. Hopefully you scribbled something on, or something stuck out to you, or maybe you just thought like, huh, I never really thought of that as self-care, but it is self-care. Um, and do you now feel like you have the time for self-care? Do you know that you have the power? Do you feel empowered that you must create it and find that you won't find it, and be intentional about it? And that really the magic of all this happens if is to schedule it. Schedule some of it for yourself, just like you would a wellness appointment, and to try to maintain some level of consistency. Think about how you want to feel after you microdose self-care. Like, what is it that are you going for peace of mind? Are you going for energy? And what will help you get to that spot? And then you're going to be a master at doing this, and you're going to be this microdosing machine where you can microdose something, and then you can do something called habit stacking, where you can then stack another thing on it, and really just pay attention and be present with yourself and notice how it's making you feel, this activity that you're trying on, and keep doing it if it's working for you. And if it's not, ditch it and move on to something else. Here's a little bonus. That it's, this was, I call it a fun sheet for 2022. These are some of the things that I'm trying to do for 2022. It's not too late. We still have the summer and like half the year left. But this is something you could do with your care recipient too. And I will also put this in the same No Barriers Caregivers group on Facebook, so that you all have this link too, for the fun sheet. But if you do it with your friends and family, that's a good way to just be intentional about things that you want to microdose into your life. And I want to see that we all just put more fun. We deserve it. You deserve it. And let's stay connected, not through just the No Barriers team, but feel free to reach out to me on Happy Healthy Caregiver. I do a complimentary coaching session if that's something that you're interested in. I'm going to share the playlist with you. You'll find my podcast, Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast. Lots of No Barriers people that I've met on that, and love to spotlight different people's stories. And I would love to connect with all of you all. So, and if anyone has questions, I can stick around for a few minutes. And we can take a few questions if you'd like. I will stop the recording too, so you've got some more. Let's do that.